Thank you, President Washit, for that kind introduction. Chairman Sniffen, Secretary Wilmer, members of the board, Mr. Stefanik, faculty, staff, families, and friends. It is impossible for us, the class of 2025, to pay our debt of gratitude to God and His mediatrix, Our Lady, Seat of Wisdom, for the overwhelming grace we have all received these past 4 years, and to thank you for your dedicated effort and inestimable support, without which none of us would be here. Indeed, we have contracted an unpayable debt before God and before you, which we will not forget. And you, dearest classmates of 2025, I dare not even try to say what a gift it has been for me to share, to really share these past 4 years with you. Dr. Jed showed us a picture of Calvin 2 weeks ago, jumping onto a sled with Hobbes behind him. They beheld from the top of a hill a something white, uncertain, a wondrous winterland before them. The caption under the comic read, "Let's go exploring." That is good advice. But I know that a number of us are feeling like we just got to the bottom, not the top of the hill. What do we do there? We have had a wonderful, cold, rough at times, dare I say, wild and dangerous ride. These last few weeks, we have been bumping along the run-out, and now we have just come to a stop. We are sitting a little dazed from the ride. Haven't we already had our adventure? It isn't all that fun trudging through deep snow. Who's going to carry the sleds? What do we do at the bottom of the hill? Well, to answer that, my friends, we must reflect for a moment on memory. Perhaps it is fitting that one named Kolya gets to speak to you the elder Zosima's words that Alyosha, at a similar bitter parting, delivered around this stone when the future of Russia rested in those youths' hands, as the future of the West now rests in ours. My dearest classmates, perhaps you will not understand what I am going to say to you, because I often speak very incomprehensibly. But still you will someday remember and agree with my words. You must know that there is nothing higher or stronger or sounder or more useful afterwards in life than some good memory. Especially a memory from these 4 years in Lander, lived under the patronage of Our Lady. You hear a lot said about your education, yet some such beautiful, sacred memory preserved from these years is the best education. If a man stores up many such memories to take into life, then he is saved for his whole life. And even if only one memory remains within our hearts, that alone may serve someday for our salvation. These past 4 years, my friends, are only just beginning to educate us now. They foreshadow something toward which we travel. Their recollection is our hope, their fulfillment our end. We have been blessed with not just one good memory, but more memories than I can with these few words, tithe, or even tithe the tithe. I cannot give 1%. We remember the first few nervous days in our new home, striking up acquaintances with each other while making chunked checks rather than handshakes. Then 21 days of what was bliss for some, agony for others, and endless weeks of liturgical debating for Wickle 5. We remember the cultic Euclid noises of Section 300 with Dr. Giesting, and their seminars reaching the cacophonous heights of Pert's Credo. We remember the moments that seemed longer than John Cage's 4 minutes and 33 seconds of silence in Section 100. Baxter, the prophet of the eschaton, who taught us, along with Plato, how stupid we really were. Haywood, leading the freshmen of John's, half naked, through the snow, around the dorm, crab walking at 6 miles an hour, every night after night prayer. We remember perfect gender segregation in sections. Evidently not the worst way to find a spouse. And the famous band, 7:30 Curfew's debut, with Dr. Olson and Jaden Stauffer at our lively freshman dance. We remember being inducted into the riches of WCC culture by our thumotic seniors who fiercely loved the good. Andrew Russell teaching us the real meaning of foosball and philosophy. Learning to juggle, sing, and busk with Ruth, profound and conspiratorial conversations with James Green, adventures with John in the Wild West. Sophomore year brought an ascent into the realms of theoretical knowledge, and with it, Luke Christopherson's crowning moment in the Latin track. Esne hoc dicendum bis numquid non intelligis. Arguments with Luca until dawn about Pelarealism. And our attempts to hear anything in Versati over AJ's voice loudly asserting that he would rather be reading Plutarch. You might not know it now, seniors, but you will really miss Versati. Junior year brought Shakespeare and many dramatic readings. We blundered our way forward as upperclassmen, and Abraham Tardif finally fell in love with the liberal arts. Junior author projects happened, and we learned that if you love someone enough, you can pursue a relationship without a third wheel. We found Dominic locked away in upstairs Baldwin with Pope Benedict. Geese in some hideout deep in conversation with Mariton, right? After learning for 3 years how to ask penetrating and relevant questions, many men in our class took their questions a step further. Suddenly, bediamonded fingers began rapidly appearing in section. St. Paul can't save them all. This year we wrote our theses, stood before people we loved and spoke to them of things we deeply cared about. It sped by and we couldn't slow it down. That's what happens when you approach the bottom of the hill. We finished our humanities readings. Yes, that was a major part of senior year. We sang together at our retreat, danced together at John's party, crowded at the kitchen door in Mama's kitchen, nervously waiting to present the next volley of toast to our beloved faculty. It is now that our Ulma really begins to educate us. Perhaps William Wordsworth put it best, reflecting on the past influences of our lives. He writes, "My heart leaps up when I behold a rainbow in the sky. So was it when my life began. So is it now I am a man. So be it when I shall grow old, or let me die. The child is father of the man, and I could wish my days to be bound each to each by natural piety." Wordsworth reminds us that our youth educates our adulthood in wonder. The child is the father of the man. In this, let us be good students of our freshman selves. But we might extend Wordsworth's reflection further. Let our experience here school us in noble friendships, meaningful conversation, love for the human face, and all things incarnate in space and time. But most of all, as Father David reminded us last week, we must be schooled by the experience of living in communion. If these past 4 years have done anything for us at all, one must hope that they have done this, that they have drawn us from the isolation and narcissism of our self-interest to the beginning of the bond of perfection, which constitutes us as beings in communion, learning what it means to real share life. Classmates and friends, don't stop sharing life. This is our task, to carry on that movement into a richer sharing through the gift of our very selves. We are the secret radicals, John Sr. says, who subvert the secular order, not by terrorism, but by sacrifice. So far, we have been in the lyric genre, in stasis between lost Eden and the New Jerusalem, contemplating the memory of Tabor, anticipating the resurrection. But this task is for those not in lyric, but comic terrain. This is the great comic task. And our world is a comic world. What makes it comic? Marriage? Maybe for the class of 2025. But even more fundamentally, birth. One need only read The Winter's Tale, The Second Shepherd's Play, or the first chapters of the Gospel of Luke to know that. Today, dear graduates, we are being born. As freshmen, we signed our names into the matricula, the little womb. And we have been formed in that womb now these past 4 years. Our mother has been in labor this week, and today we are being born. That means these are the last words you're going to hear from the womb. It would be ridiculous to think your mother stops educating you once you're born. But are we ready to be born? And when should we be born? Well, Chaucer does not hesitate to answer. He says in April. But for us in Wyoming, since April falls in May, we too are being born in April. But what does one do in April after being born? Chaucer has it again. One that April, with his sure sota, the drought of March have pierced to the road, and bar that every babe is switch liqueur, of which virtue engendered is the fluor. One Zephyrus eke with his sweet breath, in spirit half, in every holt and hath, the tender crops and the young son, half in the rams, half across the ram. When slow fowl is mocking melody, that sleeping all the nick with open eag. So pricketh him nature in fear caroches, then longing folk to go on pilgrimages. And sfomerers for to seek and strange strondes, to ferne howles, couth in sundry londes, and specially from every shire's enda, of England to Canterbury they wenda, the holy blissful Martha for to seek, that him have hope one that they will seek. There you had. If being born is what you do in our world of becoming, the comic world, then what you do is become. You commence, and then you go on pilgrimage. What do we do on pilgrimages to accomplish the great comic task? To draw this messy world into harmony, to find ourselves in the great communion of lovers. Chaucer has it again. We tell our stories. We have spent these past 4 years, as Dr. Papadopoulos reminded us on Thursday evening, listening to our story. The story of the West. Homer to Plato to Virgil. Then he came, and Augustine followed, and Dante, Milton, Dostoevsky, Melville, and all the others. We have also spent these last 4 years writing the next chapter of that very story. For better and worse, by every wild moment in the mountains and every wasted minute on a laptop. Now we must spend the next 40, like the Canterbury Pilgrims, telling that story that we have heard and helped in our own small way to write. We must tell our story, the story of Beowulf, swimming in full armor across the channel while fighting sea monsters for 3 days, of Luca leading 20 hours of music for the Triduum liturgies in the year 2025. We must tell our story, so vividly captured by Caravaggio, of Christ calling St. Matthew to a life of apostolic mission, and of Joe Fredrickson calling Eddie to St. Leo's. Our story of Leonidas and the 300 who defended in the shade the true freedom of the West against the onslaught of the Persians, and of the joyful, unceasing song that we led against the culture of death when we drowned out their cacophonous loudspeakers chanting the Salve and the St. Michael's Prayer. Our story, as Dante recounts it, of Ulysses' voyage through the Pillars of Hercules and the destruction and wreck that he suffered there, and of Luke Christopherson when he turned that ship around. We must show men the school of Athens, with Plato and Aristotle discussing piety in the Forum. And we must paint for them in words Ethan and Basca in the school of the Porch of Johns. Dante, struggling up Mount Purgatory, stooped beside the prideful, and we, struggling up Wind River, Round Top, and the mountains of the Sur, stooped beneath our own packs. It is these stories that we tell on our pilgrimage. These stories that are the gift of ourselves to the pilgrim we find beside us, be she the wife of Bath or Grace Sherman. A gift of ourselves that, when given, teaches us of ourselves and draws us up deeper into that communion of love in persons for which we ultimately strive. Classmates and friends, don't stop telling stories. This pilgrimage is epic too, for like Aeneas, we are carrying the household gods on our shoulders. The tradition and the goods of this school, and the goods this school has taught us to love and guard, to keep and preserve, so we may bear them for a second founding our new lives around the same goods, in all the intricate particularity of a new place and a new people. Herein lies the challenge for us, to found anew the civilization of love, the cult of the real. What are the arts of the WCC alumni? Classmates and friends, remember by your love to kindle the earth's peoples, for your arts are to be these, to wonder and bring men back to wonder, to tell our story and found families and communities immersed in the real. How do we accomplish this epic task? Now was returned to Cardi. For like Trygaeus in Aristophanes' piece, whose name means crop, a farmer, a tender of the vines, we cannot ride Pegasus to heaven in tragic style. Rather, we must, like him, see the wild, wondrous solution before us. And we must, with Stetson in hand, mount the dung beetle and ride to heaven to pull peace out with the farmers, cooperators with nature, lovers of the real, and bring her back down to earth. But we will only see these strange paths to peace and communion through our intimacy with the real. We must be immersed in it. It is the farmer who knows that manure gives life and vigor to the seed, who has the vision to see how a dung beetle can save the world. To pursue the real, we must eschew the unreal to the extent we can. We must guard our city walls from the invasions of virtuality, seizing us from the incarnational reality, in and through which grace is and ever will be poured out onto our lives. Classmates and friends, guard and preserve the real. Fellow seniors, we have now been crowned and mitred over ourselves. These hats are the symbol of that charge this true freedom bestows. Our mission is to an apathetic and disembodied world, one that has forgotten that our story begins with a chubby baby in Bethlehem, hungry for rich milk. I can imagine you riding on your dung beetles now to save the chair people, wearing your Stetsons proudly, teaching men to love again, to love the chubby baby, and be hungry for the rational milk. I can imagine you in this messy world like Ishmael and Alyosha, loving the people on the fringe, the pagans and the prostitutes, listening to their stories and receiving their love. We can imagine Haley volunteering in a nursing home, holding symposia with old people on the meaning of love. Giroux carving into his coffins strange, mythic horses like those on ancient walls. Dominic, Anna, Bridget, Annie, Ethan, planting bright Michigan flower beds, while speaking the Latin tongue which grows, after all, secret fos. Beth, combing the streets of Denver for another forgotten face to love. Now, we must consider if any of this helps us to answer our question. What ought we to do sitting here stocked at the bottom of the hill? This is not the only hill that God made for sledding, and though it is a darn good one, we must go out and look for others. Under the tutelage of our youth spent FWCC, let the memory of that good ride always provide us the strength and yearning to trudge through deep snow and slay another hill. You have tasted, Socrates, the greatest goods. You have climbed, danced, sung, and ridden. You have lived with real friendships, experienced the life of the mind, learned what and how to celebrate. You have worshipped God. The world has lost these arts, but you have found them and made them your arts. Most of all, you have learned for 4 years that one cannot pursue these goods alone. Luca cannot sing polyphony. Everest cannot dance. Jojo cannot think. And none of us can love alone. Egypt is an arid land longing for water. But you, dear class of 2025, are the Nile. Classmates and friends, don't stop overflowing. Sea turtles bury their eggs in the sand near the ocean. When the baby turtles are ready to hatch, they chew through their eggs with a special egg chipper tooth called a caruncle. And they wriggle up onto the beach. No sooner do they find themselves free than they waddle, run, and then spring into the ocean depths. We are the sea turtles. Now it is our chance to waddle, run, and sprint. Will only 10% survive in the wonders of the deep? It is not for me to say. But if we can cling like Ishmael to the coffin on which is written in strange, undecipherable characters the mystery of the cosmos, if we can keep our eyes fixed on that mystery, like Peter walking on the waves, and behold the Logos walking out to meet us, perhaps we turtles will be saved. Classmates and friends, share the real. Tell stories. Guard the life that we share, and ride your dung beetle to heaven. Always overflow. It is a wonderful world out there, dear class of 2025. Let's go exploring.